Hello, welcome to episode 5 of the podcast. After today, we can no longer count them on one hand. Shows progression. This starts the 5th week of when I rebooted my YouTube channel. Thank you for being along with me for this ride. When this releases, it's Saturday today, but it will go live on Monday, on the Moon's Day, and it'll be the 20th of March. Now, the 21st would be the day I would say is the equinox. The celebration of the equinox, I believe, can be celebrated 3 days before and up to 4 days after. So that would be from, say, the 18th, which is today when I'm recording this, all the way through to the 24th. Now, the equinox, known as Ostara, and Ostara's name in the old Germanic ways became Easter, and is a deity or a goddess related to fertility. I personally start my new year on the 21st of March. There's a bit of a debate upon this, really. A lot of people would say April Fool's Day should be when we start the new year. And the fool part of it is that, you know, the trick being played. Now, this probably makes more sense to me than the 1st of Janus, the 1st of January. However, when I actually break it down and look at it, it's 11 days after the equinox. 11 can represent many things, opening doors, but it can also be the split of the wands. And if one represents God, if one is where everything comes from, and we split that one, then we get the opposite. We get the mirror reflection. Now, April Fool's Day. To be fooled is to be deceived. Who's the great deceiver? So, I don't know if I fully commit to April the 1st, but I prefer it more than January the 1st. And then there are those that say April the 1st is the day of rest. And it should start on April the 2nd, 12 days after the equinox. Starts to make a bit more sense. 12 is, the zodiac. It's no matter which civilization you know. 12, there's always 12 numbers on the face of a clock. There's a reason behind that. You know, a cycle is counted in 12s. Really sorry for the coughing. I am a bit under the weather. I always am when we reach the 4 major spokes on the wheel. At the end of this podcast, we'll talk a bit about those spokes. There are 8. We will call them the pagan Sabbats. Pagan's an interesting term, isn't it? We can see a lot of attack on paganism. But to me, what paganism is it's a blanket term that represents the pre-church Northern Europeans. How we were before the church, the organization that is the church, the how we were, I don't know, sub the 700s, the 600s, you know. We go back to the early Middle Ages and before then. So there's lots of different types of paganism, right? There must be, because you had the Britons, you had the Celts, You had the Nordics. Wow, I'm really sorry. I'm not going to cut it though, because no matter when I do it this weekend, I'm still going to have this cough. It's been with me for a while. So I'm just going to work through it. Apologise if it sounds awful. I'm sure that it does. So they try to bundle paganism into like things that don't fit within their doctrine. Like putting certain demons and stuff and saying, oh, that's a pagan god. Well, is it though? Like pagan, so it's it's like saying European. Well, we can look at all the different corners of Europe and see that, you know, we believe very different things, really. The Nordic gods are very similar to the Greek gods, but there are clear cultural influences which show that the people must have lived slightly differently. So, yeah, anyway, I start my new year on the 21st of March. It's when the clock hits 12. 12 days of night, 12 days, 12 hours of night, 12 hours of morning. It's when birth happens again. The flowers and the trees. The first full moon after the equinox. It has two names. It's either the sap moon or it's the worm moon. The worm moon because the worms come back out of hibernation. You'll see that the birds will now fly down to the soil in the early mornings to feed off the worms. They freeze through the winter, and then they thaw from the equinox, and by the time the full moon is here, we have the worm moon. It's also an incredibly good time to collect sap from the trees. So it's known as a sap moon as well. Now, if you look at the festival of Easter, which is a fertility festival, that's why we celebrate it with eggs, rabbits, chicks, all highly fertile, all back out for springtime. There's very little of the modern day Easter that is related to the crucifixion anymore. It's quite literally a fertility festival without telling you. We have chocolate eggs. Chocolate was never really a part of it. Actual eggs, absolutely. We would paint eggs, absolutely. But the whole gluttonous side to it, the stacks of chocolate eggs, the consumerism part, that's not fertility. In fact, Mars represents the male side too, coming together to reproduce, and his sin is gluttony. So you can see that there's some dark sides to the coin being played to us. Just before we get into the story, which I like to talk about Persephone this time of year. It's a wonderful little myth in regards to spring returning. But just before we do that, I just wanted to point out a few things that I tried to squeeze into my astrological update on Thursday, but I just couldn't fit it in. And sorry, I thought I would leave it for this podcast. So this is a chart. Oops, there we go. Oh my days. It's going to be a struggle for me today, guys. I hope you can appreciate my battle through the struggle. But so this is a chart of noon on the 17th, which was yesterday now. But what I really want to pin your attention to is this section of it. Up here, in Aries and a little bit in Taurus. So what you can see, let me get it right, that looks just above, that looks like a key. This is Chiron. And underneath it, that looks like a 4, or looks like a 2 with a cross through it, depending on how you look at it. That's Jupiter, or Thor, or Zeus. It represents opportunity, money, the king. That's why royal colours are purple. The king of kings, whether it's Zeus or it's Thor. And we have healing. It's also in Aries, so it's restarted its cycle. Oh my, I'm really sorry. Come on. Keep supping that tea. Right. And we have this green line that goes from Thor or Jupiter and Chiron and connects us to Uranus. And Uranus represents change. It's the bringer of change, the archetype of change, as you may. So we have healing within our financial structures, what rules the world. Great amounts of healing at the minute. Now we're just starting to break away, which we will start to see the outcomes of what needs to be healed. And we have this connection to change. So this period of healing within sort of financial structures and gold and money opportunities, as it moves away, will start to manifest and allow us to heal from them. So it's no surprise that we're at a time where we have banks closing, Signature Bank and SVB. We've got branches all over Britain and Scotland, well, England and Scotland and Wales. They're closing left, right and centre, all during this period. And this will be like this for the next 6 months, maybe 4 months, 4 to 6 months. We'll start to see that these financial structures are closing. It's all part of us moving our way away from the age of Pisces and into Aquarius. Because when we moved into Aquarius, it was never going to be done. It takes time. It's a clock that ticks every 2,160 years. So it's progression. Things have to die as things are reborn. Reincarnated into something new. So I would start to think about what life could be like without dependency on the banking system. Because slowly, as we start walking towards a more set period within Aquarius, we will start to see these banking systems failing more and more. It's written in the stars. That means if you have money saved, I would strongly advise you to put it into commodity, whether that's gold, silver, oil, something that will be needed, so it'll always maintain its value. buy physical gold, really. You know, a gram of gold, let's say a gram of gold is worth £60, or maybe around $70, $72 if you're in America. Well, you can get a decent monthly shop for that amount of money. So if you consider that, you know, every gram of gold you have is worth $70, that's something that we can always trade with each other. You know, we've always used gold. We don't need to rely on their currency. I know a lot of people are investing into crypto. Perhaps crypto is the currency of the future. Maybe. It somewhat fits with Aquarius being aqua and Aries, the water in the air. The digital is sort of the wireless digital currency. But if the internet's turned off on you, all your money's gone. So I would always try the physical. For me, in my opinion, is always the better way to go. But if you can find a very trusted source of cryptocurrency, it's probably more reliable than a bank account for the next 4 or 5 months or so. So, the mythology part of it. Introducing Persephone. Now, Persephone is sort of the goddess of the springtime, really. She's the goddess of the flowers, the water. She likes to pick flowers upon the meadows, specifically in the mountains of Sicily. Very beautifully natured goddess. She's the daughter of Demeter. Demeter being one of Zeus's siblings, also represented by Virgo in the heavens. She is the goddess of agriculture and fertility. Demeter plays a big role within this myth. So, one day, Persephone is in the meadows picking the flowers on a beautiful day. And sorry, I noticed that maxed out. It must have sounded awful. I can only apologise, and I've just got to keep going. So, up rises from the underworld Hades, another of Zeus's siblings, and he catches Persephone's eye. Thinks, oh wow. Now he has to go up to Mount Olympus because he has an audience with Zeus. So he goes up there. He does so very rarely. Usually they leave him where he is. But in this particular case, he has to go up and speak to Zeus in person. And Zeus would never go down to the underworld. Nah, it's not about that. He would invite you to his grandeur up on Mount Olympus. So Hades goes up and they have their conversation. And at the end, he says, "So that Persephone, like picking flowers on the meadow, I'd quite like to marry her." Zeus hesitates. Says, "Well, she is the daughter of my sister, but you are my brother. So I can neither give nor deny my blessing. Take that as you will." So Hades says, "Well, does that not mean it's free game?" And upon his return, he throws Persephone against her will into his chariot and plows down to the underworld. Now poor Demeter is in absolute despair. Her daughter is gone, not to be found anywhere. She, through her despair, stops giving her power and energy to the world, and the crops begin to die. The world turns brown instead of green. The leaves fall off the trees. The fruits start to die. The land freezes over. And the people on Gaia start to scream, Zeus, why are you doing this? Sorry, I think I went a bit loud for the mic there. Zeus, why are you doing this? Why do you harm us so badly? Zeus goes to Demeter. Okay, we will send Hermes, and he will travel the realms and find Persephone. Now, there's a variation in the story here. A lot of them it is Hermes who finds Persephone, because Hermes has the ability to travel through all of the realms. He has the freedom to move through. But there's also a version of the story where Hermes doesn't find her, and it's up to Hecate to find her. And that's where we get the trinity of the maiden, the coon, and the I forget the actual name, but the young lady, the Persephone, Virgo, Demeter, and Hecate, which represents very much so the moon. She's a lunar deity, and she's the one to find Persephone. Many different tellings of myths. For this, we'll keep it simple with the ones that are in the books as such. Hermes finds Persephone. Shocked when he finds her, because she's not a slave, she's not a victim. She is the queen of the underworld, upon her throne, worshipped by the people there. This lovely girl who was once picking flowers on the meadow is now the queen of the dead. Wow. Hermes goes to her and says, your mother is in despair. Zeus has commanded me to bring you back, for all the people of the world shall perish if your mother does not bless them with her agriculture. So Persephone rises from the throne and goes to leave with Hermes. Then Hades comes. But even Zeus must follow the rules of the gods. Yes, that is true, says Hermes. Well, Persephone has eaten from the land of the dead 7 pomegranate seeds. So, Hermes had no right to take Persephone. So Hermes has to travel back to Zeus and negotiate, and they eventually come up with the negotiation that Persephone will live 6 months as the queen of the underworld and 6 months as the goddess of springtime, goddess of water and flowers. And that's where we get the winter seasons and the summer seasons. So, looking at, I have to get used to this, pointing the other way. Sorry, I'm about to cough again. We're almost there. Wow. I thought last week's was hard, having to do it really late at night, but it's taken its toll. But we'll get there. So here we have the wheel, and going along the line in the middle, we have Ostara going across to Br3athe. So Ostara is the spring equinox, where Persephone returns, and then we go round, try and get this right, to Beltane, which is the first midpoint. This is essentially springtime, mid-spring. Br3athe, which is the summer solstice, where the sun is at its highest point. This is all northern hemisphere, the inner. Then we come to midsummer, and then Mabon, the fall equinox, as Persephone falls back to the underworld. And then we have the despair of Demeter through Samhain, Yule, Imbolc, and back to Ostara. And Imbolc, she starts to prepare the fields. It's a good time to be planting certain seeds that we can then care for upon her return. So yeah, I really like that myth. One of my favourites, to be honest. I mean, I could read you 30 myths and tell you each one of the 30 are one of my favourites. Because it's got quite a lot of stuff to ponder about, you know. Down to the pomegranate seeds and what do they represent and how they're so similar potentially to the apple in the Garden of Eden. But also that even Zeus must follow the rules of the gods. Well, who sets the rules? You know, is it the grand creator? They all even though they call themselves gods within these stories, they always acknowledge that they even themselves are in a creation. They are created. Zeus is very much the pineal gland, the third eye, the brow chakra, the one who bears the lightning. And we have Demeter, which is Virgo. We would represent this as one of the 12 systems of the body, which would be the digestive system. You know, the agriculture, the wheat that we eat is to be digested, but also, you know, it shows the despair that we can feel in our gut when we're unable to digest. We have Hermes and his ability to communicate and negotiate and come to a truce. And then overarching, we have the seasons and the swing. And we can, you know, when we get to the summer solstice, Demeter, I keep wanting to call her Virgo, Demeter is in, you know, full heart. She has a daughter, and then she starts to dread her fall. So the sun gets, you know, less and less powerful each day. And then everything slowly starts to die until we get to the winter solstice, and then she slowly starts to anticipate the return of her daughter. So it can help to make sense of the wheel, of the what we would call pagan Sabbats. Well, I didn't really have any questions in the comments or anything to answer recently. Nobody's asked anything, so I'll do my throat a favour and leave this here. I hope you like the poem that follows. I also hope I get time enough to record it. God bless you. You are beautiful. Remember, be kind, be thoughtful, and breathe deeply. This is my opinion, but I got it from the natural world. It may have a little truth, but don't just take me for my word. Make up your own mind when you listen to what you heard. It's time now to be the shepherd, not the sheep lost in a herd. New Year should start upon the equinox. I know, this may seem like a paradox, and something you'll rarely hear said on the screen of a goggle box. But with everything collapsing, perhaps it's time to be unorthodox. On the 21st of March, the day and the night has 12 hours, and the clock resets upon the 12th hour. Life begins again, renewed like the flower. When they twisted the calendar, did they remove us from our power? In Latin, Septem means 7, Octo means 8, Novem means 9. So, September, October, November, read 7, 8 and 9. But we were taught these are months 9, 10 and 11. Do you see the sign? Right in front of our faces, we can read the lie. I think we should celebrate the new year when the birds return back home. Easter means fertility. That's how it was once known. The new year we were given, it was chosen by the throne. So let's choose it true, and together we can make one on our own. Let's look to our ancestors for the magic of the old days and start a new year at the start of a new phase. The year is for the sun as he blesses us with new rays. So let's make it true so that we can thank him in the true ways.